Up on the stand, I'm just going to introduce everybody up here. To my left, I have Commissioner Ned Hacker. My name is Jake Pearson. To my right, we have Commissioner Maren Patterson, then Commissioner Jeremy Lowry, then Vice Chair Lisa Mulkevich. Then we have from staff Zachary Smallwood, Mustafa Al-Janabi, and Susan Nixon. If you could silence your phones, if you have not, that would be great. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on murraycitylive.com and facebook.com/murraycityutah. There will be a public comment section during the meeting. During this time, the public is welcome to come up to the podium and make a public comment. When you do so, do we have forms?
Yeah.
Okay. There's forms in the very back. If you could pick one of those out and fill those out if you're going to make a comment. And are we going to have them drop them off? And just drop them off up here after you make a public comment. But when you come up to the podium, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And if you could try to speak into the microphone so everybody here and watching online can hear you, that would be great. If you're watching remotely, you may also submit a comment. And you do that by emailing planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. That's the only way you can make a comment if you're watching remotely. So if you comment on the bottom of a video, we won't see that. So please, if you want to make a comment, please use that email address. Okay. Our agenda tonight, I would like to recommend that we move one agenda item. And I think most people here are for our agenda item number 5, which is in front of 2 other agenda items. So I'm going to recommend that someone make a motion that we move that to the end of the meeting so these other 2 applicants don't have to sit through a long meeting where their items may be very quick. Does anybody have an issue with that? Or if not, can someone make a motion to do that?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. Oh, I forgot. I'll make a motion that we move agenda item number 5, legacy materials, conditional use permit, to the end of our agenda.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Patterson. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. So we're going to just move that agenda item 5 right after the Stunning Dance Studio. Okay, let's start on our agenda item number 1, which is approval of minutes from April 12th, sorry, I don't know why I can't say dates right. April 20th, 2023, July 20th, 2023, August 3rd, 2023, and August 17th, 2023. Did anybody have any?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve Planning Commission meeting minutes from April 20th, July 20th, August 3rd, and August 17th, 2023, with the half dozen administrative corrections that we had identified in our pre-meeting.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Hacker. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, perfect. We have a second from Commissioner Patterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Our second item is conflicts of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest tonight?
No.
No.
I don't as well. We have no finding of facts, so we are going to move to our item, agenda number 4, which I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, Habomi Mama Delphine Daycare, and that is going to be presented by Zach. Are the applicants present by chance? Okay.
So I did not see, I was going to mention I didn't see them here. So it's up to you if you want to still hear the item. We could maybe see if there's anybody here for that item. If not, we might consider moving it.
Is anybody here for that agenda item? Okay, there is one person here.
Okay, do you want me to then?
I think what do you guys think? Okay, let's move forward.
Okay.
Zach.
Okay, so this is an application from Delphine Hobby Mama for a major home occupation at 5953 South Jamaica Circle. Located just here, it's just south of 5900 South. in a cul-de-sac. It is in the R18 zone, which does allow for home-based daycares as a major home occupation. Typically, how we approach these is through an administrative approval. So if the applicant is able to, or the business owner is able to obtain, actually, I believe that's the applicant right there. So if the applicant is able to obtain the signatures for the neighboring properties, typically anything that their property touches and across the street, if they can obtain those signatures, then they're approved for a major home occupation. If they're unable to do that, then they can come before the Planning Commission for a review. So he was unable to get all the signatures at this time for various different reasons. So their proposal is to use the home for up to, the application requests up to 16 children. However, Murray City has a limitation of 12 in our code. So we are recommending that the applicant be limited to 12 children. Let's see. Also, they've also requested to operate for 24 hours a day. And so we have put in a limitation on that that we require no pickup or drop off in the quiet hours, which are regulated at 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. But other than that, that was staff's recommendation. In the pre-meeting, we did kind of have a discussion on whether those should be limited further. That's a conversation we could have that staff is willing to have. Sorry, I have like a million different papers here. And then they are proposing to have a vehicle, but not at this moment. They're waiting to make sure that they can get approved for this major home occupation, and then they would pursue that. So a couple pictures of the property that's located here at this house. Mustafa was kind enough to go out and take photos for me, so thank you, Mustafa. This is the circle. So findings, the proposed use for the daycare is allowed as a home occupation in the R18 zone. Staff believes that with conditions outlined in the staff report and the applicant's narrative, it will not have a significant impact on the surrounding neighbors. And then also with conditions, the proposed major home occupation will not be contrary to the goals and objectives of the Murray City General Plan. So we are recommending the Planning Commission approve the major home occupation business located at 5953 South Jamaica Circle, subject to the 6 conditions listed on your screen and in the staff report. Any questions for staff at this point? Yes.
So is Murray City's business license predicated on them getting the applicant getting approval from the state to do?
Yeah, they would have to.
Or certified by the state?
Yeah, the state would require it, and the business licensing requires a copy of that license prior to opening.
I also have a question. I know sometimes we've done major home occupations that have vehicles. Have we ever specified like must be off, like on, like no street parking?
It's in the code that has to be
Okay.
off-street.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for Zach? Okay, thank you. Once again, I just want to re-ask, is the applicant present? Yes, please, come up to the podium, if you could, come up here. Can you state your name and address?
My name is Eli Ngabonziza. My address 5953 South Jamaica Circle, Murray. Utah, and zip was 84123.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Zach has helped you review the conditions in this application. Were you able to understand those?
Yes,
And you'll be able to comply with all those? You'll be able to do all those?
yes.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything you'd like to tell us?
I think for now I don't have anything to say.
Okay. Does
But,
anybody have questions for that?
Maybe I would appreciate if you would accept my proposal.
Okay, thank you for being here. Does anybody have any questions? Perfect, thank you. You can just sit down.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're now going to have a public comment period. And if you'd like to make a public comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Those watching remotely can make a comment by emailing planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. And that's the only way that you can make a comment if you're watching remotely. And just so everybody understands how the public comment period is going to work, we're going to allow people to come up, make comment, we're going to listen, and then we will close the public comment period, and then we may discuss what was said. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium. Correct. It's for this application only. Yep. We'll have a public comment period for every agenda item separately. I see nobody here. Did we receive an email, any emails?
Yeah, we have received, you'll have to forgive us, we've received a lot of emails today. So let me, yeah, please.
Okay, so
Susan's going to read one, and I'm going to go through and make sure that there's no others that
Perfect, thank you.
that I've missed.
Okay,
Just,
yes.
just before you do that, I just want to mention that we did already receive some comments in our packet.
Yes.
And so if those are not read, that means that we've already read those prior to the meeting.
Right, yeah.
Thanks, Susan.
So this one we received this morning. And I received this morning. Hi, Susan. We are letting you know that Klink family living at 5954 Jamaica Circle does not approve of the daycare being put in at 5953 Jamaica Circle. As you can see, they don't take care of their yard. We let Murray City Code Enforcement know with a comment of why don't you help your neighbor? So the neighbors went and pulled their weeds a few months back. They didn't offer to help or offer a thanks, as you can see by the photos. They've attached 2 photos. But the photos, the weeds have grown back. We had our appraiser come out so we could decide if we were willing to sell the house. And the first thing they brought to our attention was the neighbor's house has brought the value of your house down. Their own kids don't have anywhere to play but in the road. Our neighbors have had to tell drivers from the house to slow down and teach their kids to get out of the street when vehicles are backing out or pulling in. They have a 3-year-old unsupervised laying on a skateboard in the middle of the street, which when one of us is backing out, we are the ones that stand out there to make sure they aren't going to get hit. Also, they have had the Murray Police called on them because their son was chasing a neighbor's daughter around with a steak knife. The older son tried to pull away and got cut. Our neighbors told him to go tell his parents because it was a deep cut, but they won't ever go tell their parents anything. Our neighbors would make sure that they went to school, would bring them home, feed them, help them with their homework, and their parents would never go over to check on them. This year, our neighbor was told they leave for elementary school when the junior high students leave for school, which would put them there at least an hour earlier than other students. When the neighbors are out, we are constantly telling the kids not to climb on top of their vehicles and not to lean out of their 2-story window for fear of them, that they will get hurt. So I think our circle has gone out, really out of their way to help them. I hope this short story explains our circle has gone through since this family has moved in, and we really feel that they don't take care of their own kids, let alone taking care of any other kids. if by chance this does go through, we would like our privacy fence continued in our front yard. We already have enough garbage we clean up from the shorter fence with their kids, and think it would help with the daycare, if we cleared them, daycare, if they cleared for them all. My husband Brad and I are attempting tonight, and we have, if you have any additional questions. And then I've got 2 photos submitted with that.
Thank you.
We did get one other one. Did you find it?
I have 4 that I can read.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is from Patrick Cahill. I apologize if I'm messing that up. At 5965 Jamaica Circle. Concerning the application for a home-based daycare at 5953 South Jamaica Circle, I must oppose this request. In the almost 2 years that have lived at this residence, the yard has gone from very nice to nothing but tall weeds. Besides the family of 7 who live at the residence, there appears to be a constant flow of short-term residents staying for a few months at a time. The family has 5 children who get almost no adult supervision. There was an incident earlier in the year where we had to call the police because their 3rd-grade son was chasing our daughter with a knife. I just don't see how this home would be a safe environment for a daycare. Next is from Colin Short. At 5951 South Walquist Lane. To whom it may concern, the proposed daycare at 5953 South Jamaica Circle shares a property line with our home on 5951 South Walquist Lane. The north property line of the subject property shares our south property line and is separated by a 5-foot-high chain link fence. If the backyard of the property is intended to be used for an outdoor play area for the daycare, I would like to ask if it is reasonable that a taller privacy fence be installed. The shared fence is approximately 148 feet long. Colin Short. The next one is from Angie Cahill. To whom it may concern, I am very concerned and highly opposed to an in-home daycare business at the residence of 5953 Jamaica Circle. I have very little confidence that the children in this daycare will be properly supervised. The children that live in that home have typically been unsupervised, and I am aware of several occasions when the children were unsupervised for long periods of time. There have been many occasions where the children have come to my house because all of their doors into their house were locked, preventing them from getting into their house. However, a parent was inside the house. I am also very concerned about the safety of the children. We had an incident this summer when their son got mad at my daughter and went into the house, got a knife, and came out of his house and chased my daughter with the knife. At the time, my daughter described the knife as medium-sized, possibly similar to a paring knife, but bigger. I immediately called the Murray police and filed a report. I also have concerns about the condition of their yard. Their yard is full of weeds, almost as tall as the fence, so their own children are not able to play in the yard. Finally, I am concerned with the increase of traffic that this business will bring to our circle, as well as the safety issue that increased traffic will pose for my children and any other children in the circle. In conclusion, I understand that this family is doing what they can to best provide for their family, and I respect that, but I am highly opposed to this daycare business. Thank you for your time, Angie Cahill. Next one I have is from Nathan Salazar at 5959 Jamaica Circle. Hello to all parties involved in families. I have many concerns with the idea of a daycare at our neighbor's house in our circle. I'm sure that I am many with concerns about this being a possibility. I would be happy to answer any and all questions about this. Please feel free to call, or I can join a Zoom call. He provides his phone number, but I'm not going to share that here. The 6 kids that live there are usually all unsupervised, mad always out in the street, trying to get on cars, side steps of our vehicles, and always in our yards without sling if it's okay. Our neighbors have people always living with them, coming and going out of their house. I've had to ask them to please slow down when coming into our circle at a very alarming rate. The yard is so bad with tall weeds that the kids don't even play in their yard because of the overgrown weeds front and backyard. The kids are always asking for food and drinks, and of course, we usually make sure that they all are fed just in case they are not being fed at home. I'm all for families making a better life for themselves and families, but I do feel that many things need to be addressed and fixed before this can be an option. DCFS has been called to their home because one child threatened to stab another child from another house with a real knife that resulted in an injured child. So many concerns. I couldn't fathom the neighbor family having up to 16 more children running amok in our neighborhood. This would only result in many calls to our police force and code enforcement. I'm sure they all have more important things to do rather than getting calls constantly from concerned neighbors and neighborhood. This is just an absolute horrible idea and or plan. Please consider all of the concerns listed. Sincerely, Nathan Salazar. And I believe Susan sent me this next one. Okay. So this is from Susan Chapman. Our neighbors at 5953 South Jamaica Circle are requesting a daycare at their residence. We would love to have them succeed in their new country, but we have concerns with them having a daycare in their home. Some of our concerns are that their own children and children that visit are not supervised. They are often in the street, including beyond the circle and interfering with traffic. I am concerned for their safety. Also, the yard is full of tall weeds and the children are unable to play in their own yard. Their children are often mean and threatening to other children and adults, the delivery trucks, and animals. The notice that the husband brought to us said they wanted to watch 16 children and have 24-hour availability. This does not sound reasonable at all. They have 5 children of their own with only 2 people to take care of children. There's no way that they can give safe, quality care to their own children and also daycare children 24 hours a day. Thank you, Rick and Susan Chapman. And let me just make sure there's nothing that's come in. I do not have anything further at this time.
Okay, thank you. Unless anybody present would like to come up and make a public comment? Okay, I see nobody. So we are going to close the public comment period. I have a question.
Go for it.
So the major home occupation application, what, if it was a conditional use permit, then we shall approve that based on, some criteria.
Mhm.
What is, I'm putting you on the spot here.
That's fine.
What is the criteria that we're supposed to use to approve this compared to like a conditional use permit?
Sure. And to be 100% honest, I am not a lawyer. And so when I say this, I believe that this would be treated similarly to a conditional use permit, in
Okay.
that it is an administrative decision by the land use authority. Again, what we could do is if this is a concern to the planning commission, we could continue this one until I can get an opinion. The both city attorneys are out this week. So I didn't have one here this evening. But if you would like to continue this item to get a definitive answer on that, I think that could be appropriate.
Okay, I'm just thinking, normally they would go get neighbors' signatures, which they didn't do or couldn't do. And so I'm just trying to determine what our thought process should be here. Because if we do treat it like a conditional use, then we could add conditions.
Yeah, and you can still add conditions.
Sure.
You can add conditions, and then I will caveat as well, And I believe Commissioner Hacker brought this up, I think. But that they would have to still get licensed by the state
Right.
in order to operate. That is, so specifically number 6, condition 6, that the business at all times shall be conducted in accordance with all applicable requirements of Chapter 17.24, major home occupations. Meaning that they would need to obtain a business license. In order for a business license to be issued, we have to have a background check and the state approval as well.
Okay.
And Zach, I mean, I'm sure you don't know about this, but my understanding is that the state permitting process for daycares is very thorough and very rigorous and
Very
requires a lot. I mean, even down to fencing, like some of the fencing concerns and things like that were brought up would be addressed in the daycare permitting process, right?
Yeah, in the daycare permitting process.
I'm not an attorney either, but to me, logic would dictate that for a major home occupational permit, if it's possible for enough neighbors to support it, it doesn't need to come before this body. And in this case, that didn't happen. And I think we have quite a bit of comment that the neighbors do not support it. I'm probably more of the opinion that that initial process failed, frankly, and would not be comfortable. I don't think I'm comfortable with a yes personally for this.
Well, I completely disagree because I have thought through many major home occupation applications where neighbors don't agree, and it's a perfectly viable home occupation that they can have. And that because a neighbor doesn't want something doesn't mean that that applicant doesn't have the right to have a major home occupation if they can comply with Chapter 17.24 of major home occupations.
We can agree to disagree.
And I
Well,
feel like,
I mean, there have been quite a few that come through. That's why we have this option of being able to come to the planning commission, because not all major home occupations are able to get their neighbors' signatures.
I respect your opinion.
but I feel I'm obligated to comment too, because the argument that's occurring is exactly what is difficult about this job. Because there's things I might not like, but if they meet the law and can comply with the law, then I can't say I don't like them. They meet our law, legally, they meet the law. And I say that too because a lot of the comments that were made, it's not, although I want to, it's not my position to say whose opinion I favor. My position is to say if the law is being abided by, and then those opinions about the quality of the job that would be done are addressed by the licensure organization, the child care licensure, correct?
Correct.
I just want to throw that out there so the public understands. I might agree with you in my mind, what you're thinking, but legally, I need to just look at the law and see if they're following the law, because that's the position I'm in right now. Right?
Zach, landscape or yards or weeds or all those things have never been brought up, I guess, in other major home occupations. Are there any requirements for that?
So technically, no. So our landscaping ordinance, the state is very specific when it comes to single-family residential landscaping. We're not allowed to dictate, as a municipality, the state has said, we're not allowed to dictate what a front yard shall be landscaped as. All ours says is that it needs to be a mix of live material. It doesn't specify.
But if you don't have that, there's not really a way to enforce
Right.
someone to have, okay.
It sounds like there's a bit of a disagreement. It could be a good idea to get the city attorney's opinion.
My opinion is that to be honest, I'm not quite positive. I mean, with conditional use permit, I completely understand the application process, and with this, I'm not sure I do. And so my opinion is we determine what criteria we're supposed to be using using the city attorney to do that.
Yeah.
And then we,
I can tell you my professional opinion. From what I think I understand, it's an administrative rule. So if they meet the rules, that's approved. But I can't say with absolute certainty, and that's where I get hung up. I would feel more comfortable. Yeah.
Can I add to that discussion a little bit? I believe I'm adding to it. We haven't talked yet about the hours. So I've been on the commission for a while, and I've been in discussions about major home occupancies, and I feel like I understand the difference between the conditional use permit and this item. So I'm slightly less concerned than others are stating. At the same time, we haven't talked about the 24-hour, being open 24 hours, and that's a topic that concerns me, and I would like legal guidance on. And for that reason, I would be more comfortable with legal guidance.
yeah, and I think we talked about this in our pre-meeting, but we have put hour conditions on major home occupation permits in the past, so.
Did you close the public?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
So if continuation is an option, I guess the process of that is that there would be no further public comment, right?
Correct.
If it's continued, and it would be continued to a certain date.
If you specify the specific date, then yes, I would recommend just the following meeting.
This
so
September 21st meeting.
And that way, the attorneys will be back in the office next week, and we can have that conversation ahead of time. And there is a, spoiler alert, there is an open and public meetings training on the 21st of September, so that you will already have an attorney here. But we'll have representation here.
Well, I mean, if someone would like to do a continuation motion, that would be great. If not, then we can do something else.
Sure, I'll be happy. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the major home occupation regulations, it says the uses classified as major home occupations must comply with the standards of this section. And then it says the Community and Economic Development Director or Planning Commission may require additional reasonable conditions to mitigate reasonably potential adverse impacts on the use of the adjacent properties. And then it just says the conditions may include limit on hours of operation, limit on the number of clients or customers per hour, and then provision for parking, adequate parking, and any other conditions reasonably related to mitigating adverse impacts resulting from the use. So basically, it says
So, So this is, it's almost exactly
leaning
like
more- it-
conditional use
My
permit.
way.
Yeah.
Can you read the first sentence again? Sorry, Susan.
Uses classified as a major home occupations must comply with the standards of this section, which is 17030 of this chapter. Basically says requires a business license, et cetera, which shall be considered minimum standards. The Community and Economic Development Director or Planning Commission may require additional reasonable conditions to mitigate reasonably potential adverse impacts on the use or adjacent properties. Any impacts of the use on adjacent properties.
To me, that
Yeah,
reads
it's-
almost exactly
Yep.
from the
So
state.
it's very
It's
similar.
conditional use.
It's almost exactly like conditional use where we can put conditions upon the application.
Yes, it says, well, limits of hours, how many people, parking, and then any other conditions.
I mean, that said, I would be comfortable probably discussing it further and voting on it. Or if we,
I mean,
Or not, we
do you want to allow the applicant to address some of the concerns that were brought up in the public comment?
yeah, we could.
If we're going to do that, should we state our concerns as well? Or do the entire?
Yeah, I think we should probably state all of our concerns. And then if the applicant wants to come up, he can address some of them, yeah.
I would like further discussion about the hours of operation and the fencing.
I don't think we need to discuss the fencing because the fencing would be covered in
Well,
their licensing process.
Well, my discomfort is I understand it's covered in the licensure, but I don't know what that coverage includes.
Well,
Is it
I
6
feel
feet
really,
or just a safety fence?
well, that's what the state has determined. Like, they'll have to comply with what the state licensing,
Yeah.
like the permitting would be. So I don't know if we need to impose propose additional permit or conditions on that.
I guess why I say that is because their purpose is to keep the child safe, and our purpose is to protect the neighbors. So we might have two different intents.
But they're,
Minimize impact to the neighbors.
Well, minimize impact on neighbors, is a better way to say it.
I mean, it's tricky because I do think like major home occupation is required to be in the home, right? So,
That'd be right.
so we don't need to be concerned about landscaping or fencing or
But it's
things
not
like that.
logical to imagine children will remain in a home, 24 hours a day or whatever the time frame that they're open. They're going to go out in the yard. I mean, that's kids do that.
I'm not saying whether they are or aren't, but we're addressing a specific major home occupation of,
So I think maybe a compromise here is the planning commission, actually. Never mind.
All right.
Discussing among.
Let's talk about hours then.
So-
Let's talk about hours. I think 24 hours places an unnecessary burden on the neighborhood and could be very challenging.
I lean to support that slightly. And my concern earlier when we were discussing it was the legality of that, because but then the more I think about it, other businesses, we've set hours of operation, and even though they have a quiet hour, so quiet time isn't a standalone qualifier. Where we're suggesting it is in this application, because we're saying they'll be quiet between quiet hours, as long as they're not dropping off or bringing kids to the facility. But that doesn't apply to other home occupiers that we've approved with hours of operation. I want to hear your argument, but I think I'm leaning toward establishing hours of occupation and not allowing 24 hours, but talk to me.
I think it's hard to support that because it doesn't, there's not a requirement in our home occupation.
I didn't think there was earlier in our discussion, but when Susan read the description again, I think it's within our purview.
To set them?
You can set them if you would like to. Staff's recommendation, because their request was 24 hours, staff felt that at a minimum, this is what this condition of no pickups or drop-offs between 10 PM and 7 AM was the most appropriate, while still giving them the most leeway because of their request.
What are your proposed hours of operation?
I mean, I'm up for discussion, but
I think it's reasonable to allow a reasonable time if we're considering it, allow a reasonable time for people to be dropped off or children to be dropped off prior to school and so pretty early in the morning. And then I think that 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night is probably relatively reasonable. That would be my take.
I know there are 24-hour daycares and they're needed. Are they typically in a home-occupied business? I don't know, let's discuss it more, but I think I'm leaning toward early morning to late afternoon, 6 AM to 10 PM. But if there's other reasoning I'm missing, tell me.
I guess my question would be, what's the difference?
I guess why I'm starting to lean that way is because with other businesses in the home-occupied area, residential area, we've put business restrictions on them.
No, I know, but
And for the neighbors.
right, but I'm asking if you're going to,
You want me to come up with what's going to happen if I don't?
no,
You want me to
no,
tell- you want me to
no,
say- no.
I'm literally asking, so you mentioned 6 AM to 10 PM. That's what the condition is right now.
No, it's,
That's but there are people, children wouldn't be allowed before or after those hours.
they only operate during business hours.
What's I would think you would need to come up with a finding that what adverse impact you're
Right.
addressing.
That's my concern. I don't know if I have a finding, and I could argue your side as well. But I'm thinking, because we put those stipulations on other businesses for the speculation that there would be business, it would be a bother to residents. And so we're again speculating without a specific finding. But other businesses, we've said the same thing. I don't know.
I would also, the only other thing I would mention is that most of the time when people are, I mean, the hours of operation are asked at the application, and they are usually given to us, and that's when we impose those that are proposed.
And I guess you can make the argument, if the argument you just made, plus the quiet hours will be the way to accommodate for any
The-
residential concerns.
There seems to be some concerns that I think it might be wise to address once the city attorney is here. I would love to ask some questions about about the delegation of the process that go from the consent of the neighbors to the planning commission. I would be supportive and would make a motion to continue this until the September 21st meeting, when the city attorney can be present and we can ask some detailed questions. I think even about hours, it'd be prudent for us to do that. So I would make that motion.
So you just made that motion?
just make that
Okay, we
motion.
have a motion from Commissioner Lowry to continue this agenda item until the September
21st.
21st meeting. Is there a second?
I second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Hacker. Zach, can we do a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
and Chair Pearson.
Yes. Okay. So we will continue that agenda item during the next meeting. I appreciate you coming to the meeting, and we can continue to have some further conversations on this. Okay. The next agenda item is the legacy materials that we're moving to the end of the meeting, so we're going to skip that one and do number 6, which is Pine River Roofing and Construction, and that is going to be presented by Mustafa Al-Janabi.
Okay, so we want to make sure, before Mustafa gets into into the conditional use permits, because this is kind of now our conditional use section of the evening. So Utah State Code, Chapter 10, 9A, 507, regarding conditional uses, specifically says that a city may adopt a land use ordinance that includes conditional uses and provisions for conditional uses that require compliance with objective standards set forth in an applicable ordinance. And then specifically 2A1 is a land use authority shall approve a conditional use. If you guys remember, we were just talking about this. A land use authority shall approve a conditional use if reasonable conditions are proposed or can be imposed to mitigate the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed use in accordance with applicable standards. The requirement described in subsection 2A1 to reasonably mitigate anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed conditional use does not require the elimination of the detrimental effect, just that it is mitigated. And then if there is no way to reasonably, condition those detrimental effects, then you may deny a conditional use. So that applies to all of the next 3 items. So any conditional use applies to that state code. So with that, I will let Mustafa, we are doing Pine River, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. So basically, we're going to start with the Pine River Roofing and Construction. It's a conditional use based on the land use code of 6600. This is the location of it. It's on this side right here. If I can't draw a circle, but it's inside that little blue area. So as shown, this is the aerial and zoning of it, which is in the MG zone, which is why it's under conditional use. As shown, this is the floor plan area of it. It's contained of an office, shop, and tool section. And based on these measurements, staff would now have any issues. Let's see. An access of the property going back, and access to the property is in two roads from Cherry Street, two entrances, 50 feet each, 50 each on one of them, 30 on the other. As shown through the pictures, landscape needs to be a bit up. So the property needs to be at least 2 trees, 3 5-gallon shrubs, or it just needs shrubs and trees. And according to the measurements, the parking space would be needed as 3. As you can see, it is not marked, so that would be another option. It needs to be marked. And then the dumpster itself needs to be covered, and that's would be one of the issues. As you can see on the plan, it's not, and apparently, according to the land use code, it needs to be covered, enclosed, sorry. And based on that, all the information presented, staff would recommend the approval for this application based on the conditional use that with those 5 conditions, subject to them. Comments,
Thank you.
concerns, questions?
No questions for Mustafa? Okay, great. Is the applicant present? Applicant is not present, okay. We'll just move to the public comment period then, unless there's any discussion before that. Okay, I'm going to open up the public comment period. If you'd like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium, state your name and address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and those watching remotely can make a comment by emailing planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. And just a reminder, we will not address the comments until after we close the public comment period. So if you'd like to come up to the podium, you can. I see nobody here. Zach, you want to see if we have any emails?
Yeah, I don't see any.
Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment period. And we can have discussion on the application.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for Pine River Roofing and Construction located at 4627 South Cherry Street, subject to the 6 conditions.
Mr. Chair, point of order, can I ask a question? I had just had a question or comment. Can I not make it because of motion?
I- Zach, once a motion has been made, we cannot continue comment, right?
Yeah, it either has to be seconded
Okay.
or just.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Patterson. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Hacker.
Let's see, Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich.
Can I say something? I don't know.
Of course.
Am I out of order? This item was postponed prior because the applicant wasn't present and we had concerns about the trash bin and the expense that would require to fence it in. And I guess if we pass, they have to fence it in or not.
Have to comply.
They have to comply, so, okay, yes.
And Chair Pearson.
Yes. Okay, that passes. We now will move to agenda item number 7, which is Stunning Dance Studio, and I believe, is the applicant present? I forgot to ask that last time. The applicant is present? Okay, thank you for being here. We're going to turn it over to Mustafa for the presentation.
Okay, this would be, I'm glad the applicant is present for this one, to be honest. So this is a application for a conditional use permit for a stunning dance studio, subject to land use number 7396. So as it is in the CD zone, as shown, this is the location highlighted in blue. It is just on, oh gosh, 700 West. So as it is, it's in the CD zone, which does allow this to be happening as a part for the conditional use. As shown, this would be the location of it, and it is on this, oh, this little side right over here, that's where the property is located. As shown with the floor plan, it's a 600 square foot floor plan, subject to a couple of stuff. It has, according to the applicant, it is going to have 3 to 5 students at a time, anticipating to be working hours from 4:30 PM to 9 PM during the weekdays, and then 9 AM to 4:30 PM during Saturday. Maximum waiting time for each student will be 5 students waiting. As you see, one room would be as an office space, one bathroom, the dance area, which is the big area, and then one small room for waiting. As you can see, on the left is where the property is located, and on the right side is where the parking is. And according to the parking ordinance, they only require 3, which is actually present in the project. This is one of the entrances facing the 700 West. It's an in and out type of entrance. As you can see, the landscape is up to the code itself regarding the trees and numbers and so on. And this picture on the right is where the other entrance and exit is located. That actually, with the finding regarding the proposed use for land use number 7396, it should be allowed in the CD zone, outlined by the plan, outlined by the conditional uses on this, which is staff does recommend approval dependent on those, subject to those 5 conditions.
Oh, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mustafa? Okay, seeing none, could the applicant please come up to the podium? Please state your name and address when you come up here.
Hello, my name is Alicia Monica, and you want the address of the studio?
That would be fine.
687 West, 5300 South in Murray, Utah, 84123.
Perfect. Thank you for being here. Have you read through these conditions up on the screen?
Yes, I have.
And are you able to comply with those?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the commissioners?
Sure. My name is Alicia. I have had over 21 years of teaching experience. The studio provides a safe place to learn and grow and be enriched in the arts. We provide an exceptional dance training and tumbling, as well as yoga to children ages 2 to adult. We provide training in jazz, tap, lyrical, modern, hip hop, to name a few, and ballet as well. We also provide training for recreational level as well as pre-professional. Our studio welcomes students of all abilities, build strong bodies and creative minds. I would really appreciate if you accept our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Alicia?
No.
Okay. No. You can take a seat if you want. Thank you for being here. Okay. We're now going to open the public comment period for this agenda item. If you'd like to make a public comment, please come to the podium and please state your name and address. Also, please pick up a form at the back of the room and fill that out and drop it off here at the front. And please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Those watching remotely can make public comment by emailing planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. And just a reminder, we will not address the comments until after the public comment period is closed. Is anybody here to make comment on this agenda item? Doesn't look like it. Do you want to?
There is one email.
Okay.
It says, it's from Paul Dodge. After reviewing the material sent to us regarding a conditional use permit at 687 West, 5300 South for a dance studio, we can find no reason to object to their request and actually will find it pleasing to have a space occupied as it helps to make the location more alive.
Okay, perfect. That was the only email? Great, then we're going to go ahead and close the public comment period. Does anybody have any questions, discussion? If not, I can entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the planning commission approve a conditional use permit for Stunning Dance Studio LLC business at the property address 687 West, 5300 South, subject to the 5 conditions.
Perfect, thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Lowry. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
That's a second from Vice Chair Milkovich. Let's do a roll call vote.
All right. Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
and Commissioner Pearson.
Yes.
Chair Pearson.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, we're going to move on to our agenda item number 5, which is the legacy materials. And as soon as I find my papers, we will do that. Okay, is the applicant present? They are, okay, perfect. This is going to be presented by Susan Nixon.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's the moment we've all been waiting for, according to the people in the public, in the audience there. This application for Legacy Materials is a conditional use permit request, and it is for retaining block and production and storage, and it's located at 4300 South on Commerce Drive. The property is on the west side of Commerce Drive, as you can see highlighted there in the green, and west side, and it's just south of the Humane Society. It's a large property, 3.82 acres. It's located in our MG manufacturing zone. So the manufacturing zone is light industrial, manufacturing type uses. This is the appropriate zone for this kind of a use. I'm going to go over the site plan here as far as the basics. The property is a 3.82 acres. It's currently vacant. It's been vacant for several years. Land use number 3261, which is for concrete retaining block production and storage, is allowed in the MG zone with conditional use permit approval from the Planning Commission, which is our land use authority. On the site plan, you can see at the northeast corner, northeast section, is the Stone Strong inventory area. Over on the left-hand side, or so the northwest section of the site plan is the casting area, or the production casting area. And then in the middle section is where they will have the batch plant and also some storage bins. And then down at the lower half, southern half, they will have a temporary mobile office and parking for employees and also for larger vehicles that may stay on site. There are 2 drive approaches off of Commerce Drive, one on the north side and one on the south half. They are both minimum 30 feet. Excuse me, the site plan shows a 30-foot drive approach. Our code requires minimum of 25, maximum of 50. We did receive this updated site plan a couple days ago, so the Planning Commission, this is an updated site plan. The only difference is the drive approach is 30 feet, which meets our code. Other than that, it's the same. And so I just kind of wanted to go over just a little bit, zoom in a little bit on the areas of the site. Again, the northern half is the casting area, the batch plant area, and then there's a looped road for the vehicles to come in and circulate and then pull out onto Commerce Drive in a forward motion, which is required by our code. They are proposing to have an 8-foot chain link privacy fence along the north boundary. You can see, it's highlighted, hold on. Yeah, okay. 8-foot chain link fence, privacy fence, and then on the, yep, thank you. And along the frontage of Commerce Drive or the east side, they are proposing to have a 6-foot chain link fence with barbed wire. Planning Commission, just for your information, our MG manufacturing fencing regulations does allow businesses to have a chain link fence with barbed wire fence. It does have to be a minimum of 6 feet high, so what they're proposing actually does meet that code. We're proposing to have a solid fence along the north boundary. They've got a privacy fence, chain link. We're proposing to have a solid fence of 8 feet. And then again, just zooming in on the south half there, they got the employee parking and then the temporary mobile office. Temporary mobile offices are allowed with the conditional use with a time limit of 6 months. So this 700 square foot mobile office could only stay on the site for 6 months unless they come back and apply for a permanent structure, and they would have to do that prior to the 6 months expiring. And the permanent structure, they would have to either submit plans to have a permanent structure or secure the adjacent property or some other office area, because they are required to have an office area for their employees and restroom facilities. That's really the reason for that. And then this is the floor plan of the mobile office that they are proposing. And then I've got several photos of the site. We got the application back in May, but it's taken a few months to get all the information we needed to, in order to, quote, determine that this would be a complete application. And so that's why it's been a few months delayed. Also, the applicant was operating on the property, and we have shut them down a couple of times because they are not allowed to operate any type of business operations without going through the approval process and also implementing any conditions of approval. The application indicates that there will be 10 people working on the site. They have also said that they are not anticipating any excessive hours of operation. Our MG zone does not limit the hours of operation, and also there are no noise ordinances, particularly in the MG zone. The city adopted the Salt Lake County noise ordinance, which is enforced mainly by the county health officials. And it does regulate the level of noise and the level of intensity and proximity when it is adjacent to residential, which is not the case for this application, and then the time and day and recurrence consistency. So those are, again, enforced by the county health, but we have adopted them as part of our code. Let's see. I'm going to go back to this site plan here. For this temporary mobile office, it's just over 700 square feet, which requires a minimum of 3 parking stalls, and then they need to have enough parking stalls to accommodate the employees. So the site plan, based on the site plan they've proposed, it does meet the parking requirements. The frontage of the property also, our code requires that there be a 10-foot depth of landscaping along all frontages. So along Commerce Drive, there's virtually none at this point. They would be required to install landscaping along the entire length of Commerce Drive, which equates to about 9 trees, I think 15 5-gallon, hold on, let me look at the exact amount. 14 5-gallon shrubs and 31-gallon shrubs. So those would be a requirement also. And let's see. When we got the application, we asked them for a dust control, dust mitigation plan. We still have not received one, and we have that as one of the conditions of approval. And I can get to that in just a second here. We'll go over the conditions of approval. So here are some site photos. You can see that they've got some equipment brought on there, and they also have scraped and cleaned the property up. This is a dirt hill that has been, I guess, is the accumulation of the cleaning off the property. And again, they've got some big equipment on there. And they're batching facilities there. And again, they have were shut down and have not been in operating since a week or so ago, I think. And just more photos. These are some forms, and this shows the entrance off of Commerce Drive. The forms are on the left side. And then again, the site. We did send out notices to the surrounding property owners within 400 feet. And to say the least, we have received numerous emails and comments, in excess of 200 emails. So staff, again, based on state law, it does spell out, as Zach referred to earlier in the meeting, that the Planning Commission shall approve conditional uses if conditions can be imposed to mitigate any impacts on the surrounding neighbors. So based on our code and the application that we have received thus far, the findings are as outlined as shown on the screen. We are recommending approval for the conditional use for the legacy materials based on the 17 conditions as outlined. The Planning Commission did receive an updated copy of a few more conditions that we added, which is inclusive of what you are seeing. One of the conditions that I just wanted to point out is 1C, that copy of permits from the state air quality for a planned batch plant need to be secured and then a copy submitted to our office before we issue the business license. And for a second. So yeah, there are the 17 conditions. We did add 3 more. 15, 16, and 17, which address the temporary mobile office shall be removed prior to March 7th, 2024. This is assuming the Planning Commission does approve it. Subject to that, and that the temporary office be removed by March of 2024, and that the applicant must request a time extension before that time period. And one other condition that I wanted to point out. Oh, condition number 12. The applicant shall provide a dust mitigation plan approved by Murray City before the business license is issued. So I just want to go over all these conditions, 17, actually, I guess there's more like 23 of them. All the conditions would have to be done, completed, before we will issue a business license, assuming the Planning Commission were to approve this tonight. So everybody, just to make sure we're all clear, there are a lot of conditions, as you can see. All those would have to be done in order for them to start operation before we would issue a business license, if they approve it tonight. Okay, and so I think that kind of covers my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Go
I
ahead.
do have a question. So I know that we have added conditions for dust mitigation as well as air quality permits, which I think are so necessary and useful. But just so that I have a better understanding, I guess, in the application materials and in our packet, it says that it will be wet concrete that will be cast and will not be generating dust. So our mitigation implementation, I guess, can you just further explain, is it just a backup, a cautionary, is it just to make sure every base is covered? Because it does say multiple places that no, the cement won't be generating
Any dust, yeah.
dust.
You're right, it does say a wet concrete is what will be in the casting shop and will not generate any dust. And apparently, from what I've heard, they use a vacuum system that collects any dust. I'm going to let the applicant go over
Okay.
that process, because I
No,
don't
that's
want
probably
to,
perfect,
say anything or misquote them, so I'll refer that to them to explain that.
Other questions for Susan? Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to invite the applicant to come up to the podium. Please state your name and address, if you could.
Good afternoon, Jeff Comer appearing on behalf of the applicant Legacy Materials. My address is 13961 South Minuteman Drive, Suite 100. I'm with the law firm of Comer Gibbs. And beside me here is one of the owners of Legacy Materials, Ryan Balls. Also present here are the owners Mike Balls and Lane Myers. I'll let him give his address.
You want my residence or do you want the business address?
Either one would be fine.
Anything matter?
Yep.
My personal address is 14426 South Muirwood Circle in Harriman, Utah.
Okay, thank you. Have you been able to review these new conditions on the screen?
We have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And will you be able to comply with those?
Yes.
Perfect. What additional information would you like to give to us, or if you want to address the comment made earlier, that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Just like to, first of all, mention my client's current commitment to the community and what they've done already. Second, I'd like to highlight a couple of things, including the comment that was made by Commissioner Patterson. I'd also like to address some of the concerns. I've read a majority of those emails, and I think I have a good feel for what it is that they're concerned about. And I'd like to represent that there may be some misunderstanding involved with some of those concerns, and we'd like to clarify that at this time. I'd like to, if possible, reserve a little time for rebuttal if necessary, if the commission deems necessary, to answer additional questions. My client's commitment to this community is clear. They've already obtained permits and they've cleared off this property, which quite frankly was an abhorrent scar on the city of Murray beforehand. They've already done so much to get it to a place where it is right now. Those pictures you saw up there in no way represent what you might recall having driven down Commerce Drive was there before for many, many years. In fact, I'd like to reference one letter from Craig and Daphne Bruner, who are owners of the property directly south of this particular lot. This is their comment. Ever since the Fountain of Youth business closed and no longer occupy the property, we have seen vandalism, crime, drugs, fires, homelessness, and graffiti, causing us to experience decades of worry and concern for our tenants and properties. We are pleased and grateful to see a constructive business developing that property. It is such a contrast to what has been there for so many years. Also, in the conditions, there are requirements that would require my clients to actually beautify this property now and add greenery to the front of it, making it a much more pleasant place for all in the community, including the Humane Society right across the street. I want to highlight just a couple of things in the information provided. First of all, if you look at that information, you'll note that one of the main complainants here is the Humane Society. They are also MG zoned. All these properties are MG zoned around here. So there should be no concern with respect to the type of zoning and activities that are permitted with that particular type of zoning, which is very consistent with the type of business my clients are proposing here. I also want to say a word regarding the conditions themselves. As was noted, these conditions must be complied with, and particularly 1C that was highlighted. This requires that air quality permits be obtained by my clients before commencing this business. Let me just represent to the commission a fact. And this fact is that my clients have already applied to the Utah Department of Environmental Quality for a certification that their business will not cause harmful particulates to go into the air. Now, this process of certification by the State Department of Environmental Quality is done by a state-certified environmental engineer. None of the comments that you'll receive today are by a state-certified environmental engineer. They're all speculative and unfortunately based on misinformation and misunderstanding. This state-certified environmental engineer will then provide this certificate to my clients. Not even Geneva, whose business resides a couple of blocks away and does sand and gravel, has such a certification. They're the only ones in this area that would provide this. And that should provide great assurance to the community, including the Humane Society, that these activities conducted on this property will be safe, not only for humans, but definitely for animals. Additionally, it is required that my clients provide a dust mitigation plan approved by Murray City, and they intend to fully comply with all of these conditions. Let me say that again. They will fully comply with all of these conditions. Now, in reviewing these complaints, it seems that the main issue is dust. Now, there's some that think noise may be an issue as well. If you've ever stood there and listened to the freeway going by, you might disagree with that assessment. Freeway will produce far more noise than what my clients would ever produce. But in any event, the dust issue is the main concern here. And Mr. Balls is here, and he's going to address this issue. Let me just say, for the record also, my clients are pet lovers. They do love pets. Ryan has 2 dogs. Lane has 2 dogs. Mike has 2 dogs, a turtle, a catfish, and a pony. They love animals, and they bring their dogs down to the site on occasion. And they would never subject their pets to harmful particulates, and would never do so for anyone else, let alone their own pets. So I think there's misunderstanding about the process here. Now, Commissioner Patterson raised the issue of wet concrete, and that is a key issue in this particular process. Because it is wet concrete, it doesn't generate the dust. In fact, dust you'll hear from Ryan is actually contrary to the process that they need to produce these forms. So I'll let him speak to that just briefly.
Good evening. I've been in the concrete production, precast production, and sand and gravel business most of my life. In various different aspects, I've worked from greasing equipment all the way up to running the businesses. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you on the commission have regarding our process. I'm very familiar with this. Like I said, I've been doing it all my life.
Could you speak into the microphone a little
Yeah,
bit
sorry.
closer so everybody can hear? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Again, as our attorney stated, it seems that the major concern here is dust mitigation. As he briefly mentioned, dust is also a negative for us. We need the forms to be clean. We need them to be dust-free when we pour the concrete in to give us a better product. So mitigating dust will certainly be a high priority for us as well. I believe that we put on our plan application that we would be any of the areas that are not currently paved. What we've done there is we've uncovered a lot of areas that are paved, the driving surfaces and whatnot. Any of those areas that are not, we would like to bring in a recycled asphalt. We'll roll it, compact it to help mitigate any dust that's brought up by equipment or trucks rolling on the site. We're very much a clean and organized type of company. We have very expensive equipment on site. We're very concerned about those kinds of things, staying clean, staying organized, looking presentable. We're not looking to have a junkyard. I feel like we moved into one and we've been cleaning it up. It was quite a mess. There has been a significant amount of dust generated cleaning up the remnants of the building that burned down, all of the ash that had been collected over the years. We are through most of that now. We're not completely through, but we have hauled out a significant amount of trash and debris. We've had to politely ask several homeless people to leave. Let's see here, what else can I? Yeah, let me talk to you about the cement. One of the comments said that we would be cutting cement. That's not true. We will not be doing any cutting. We will cast these products into their final shape. Cutting would mean that we've made a mistake. We don't own any cutting equipment, nor do we plan on having any cutting equipment on site. The cement powder itself, which seems to be an issue, comes in a sealed truck. Those trucks are then connected to tubes and hosing where they are blown or sucked through a vacuum system into another sealed unit, the cement powder silo. Those silos have large air filtration units on them. In my experience, the Department of Air Quality, when they come out to check on that, they will make sure that there's no visible dust coming from those. They're called bag houses on top of the cement silos. They'll check to make sure that those filters are running and operational and clean. The cement powder is then delivered to a mixer, again via tubes and rubber hoses and boots. It's mixed in with the water immediately. There should be no opportunity for cement particles to be airborne. Again, this would be detrimental to our equipment. It would be detrimental to our business as well. Cement powder is very expensive. We don't plan on spilling it. Honestly, you'll get more cement powder on your hands going to Home Depot to get a 80-pound bag of pre-mixed concrete out of their aisles than you would in our plant. So, anything else?
Can I just ask a question about that? So,
Absolutely.
so the cement is contained in this container. So is the only thing that would be in piles the aggregate?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, the sand and the gravel,
okay.
which is no more caustic than the gravel that you have in your landscaping right here, right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yesterday, on September 6th, the Humane Society issued a press release, and the press release, unfortunately, is full of information that frankly is not correct. And I just want to alert the commission to this. They indicated that cement would be cut. It won't be. They indicated that there will be particulates released in the formation and creation of these products. There won't be. It's wet cement. Wet cement doesn't issue silica particles or dust anywhere. All of these are very sealed and contained, and ultimately will be inspected and approved by a state certified environmental engineer. And if a state certified environmental engineer approves of it, I think this commission can take heart and great confidence in knowing that everything will be safe for the surrounding community, including the people and animals across the street at the Humane Society. There will be no exposure to these chemicals that will lead to problems in people and animals because of this certification process and the great care with which my clients will take in generating the products that they produce. So in all, we would ask the commission here, this is a lengthy list of conditions. In my experience, they're typically very short. It's a lengthy list. And my clients realize that this is a high bar that the commission is setting, and they're prepared to meet that high bar. So in doing so, we would ask that the commission approve the conditional use permit, particularly in light of the language of Utah Code Annotated 10-9A507B, which permits the commission to approve activities where the applicant is able to mitigate any issues that may be addressed by the public as a matter of public concern. Thank you so much. And we reserve right to rebut if necessary. Thank you.
Big questions probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you just grab a few questions? Susan mentioned there are operations that have been going on the property prior to a business license. Do you care to comment on that at all?
Yeah, sure. We've brought in our general contracting company to clean up the site. And originally, there was a bit of a misunderstanding between the Planning Commission and the Stormwater Department about whether or not we needed a SWIP permit. There was a SWIP permit already in place, so that was shut down number one. The Stormwater Department showed up and thought that they were going to bust is a loose term.
That's a technical term, right?
Yeah, it is a technical term, yes. They thought they were going to catch the landowner. We're simply leasing this land. They thought we were going to catch the landowner who had violated their SWIP permit. So we ceased operations. We obtained the required SWIP permit and the land disturbance permit. The other time that they showed up, the code enforcement officer issued a ticket to one of our general construction employees, not an employee of Legacy Materials. Legacy Materials doesn't have any employees on site. They were simply moving some of the equipment on site, and that had been delivered in anticipation of getting the conditional use permit. And the ticket simply said that he was required to have a business license. It's my understanding that employees are not required to have business licenses. He's an employee of our construction company and was simply doing what he was asked to move materials on site, and we were just cleaning things up. So I believe that most of this is just a misunderstanding.
Just for clarification as well, in answer to your question, thank you for that. All activity on the property was properly permitted, so all the clearing and all that type of activity.
I need clarification. It's now properly permitted, but at the first sighting, the swap wasn't in place until it was requested.
I believe the swap was in place originally, and so it was still covered under that particular permit, is my understanding, although I could be mistaken.
I think just the land disturbance permit has been issued, which basically is just clearing the property, cleaning it up. That's it. The SWIP that was on the property previously had to be discontinued or quit, and then a new one obtained, and that's the one they've applied for that.
Yes, sorry, we were under the impression that there was a SWIP permit already issued for the site. It had all of the required signage and everything. At the beginning, we had come in and talked to the city about that, and maybe received some bad advice from a different department about whether or not we were able to go ahead and to start or to continue the cleanup of removing all of the burned out structures and the trash and those kinds of things. And so, like I say, once we were alerted to the fact that the city wanted us to have a new SWIP permit in our name, we stopped and we obtained that.
I appreciate that clarification. And just from my understanding, the second incident, the applicant has stated that it was issued to a non-employee, therefore didn't exist. The problem isn't who was issued to, is what the citation was for.
The citation was operating without any city approvals, no planning commission conditional use and no business license. So it was issued to who was actually operating at the property at that time, whether they were an employee of Legacy or not. They were the ones that were operating a business at that time.
That was just for clarification. I understand at this point we're just splitting hairs because it's been taken care of and we're moving on, but just for clarification.
Right. Right, and certainly there's no doubt that that property is much improved over what it once was, and certainly is a benefit to the city and community. So, any further questions? We'll just reserve some time. Thank you.
I did have one question. The power of the plant itself, is that going to be run off city electricity? Or will that be run off some type of generator on site?
The actual batch plant itself is self-contained. It has a generator on it. We will need to hook up to city power though for just for general use lights and those types of things.
Okay. I have another question. I understand there was a well that was accessed or as well, is that correct?
There is a well on the property, yes.
I understand that was accessed, am I incorrect without?
That is correct. It was modified without state approval, correct.
Do you want to address that as well?
Modified without state approval, I'm not sure. We had a well company come out and take a look at it before, as we were doing demolition. They came out, brought the well report with them, and just verified that it was there and operational.
Was it functioning prior to their visit?
No, that well has been closed, abandoned probably 5 years ago, and who modified the well
I
was in
think
violation. They did not have the rights from the state to proceed with that.
And just to answer that question, under number 3, condition number 3, the applicant is required to obtain Murray City building permits for any construction, so that would also fall under that ambit.
I have one last question. So not being completely familiar with this process of casting, my question is, when you do your casting, do you have overburden that you have to get rid of, and how do you do that on site, or you mitigate it by taking it off site, or is there any?
Obviously, the goal would be to have as little waste as possible. We're relatively exact on our batching amounts and casting amounts. The forms are a controlled area, so it's not like somebody's driveway or something where, it may be a half an inch deeper than somebody did the math for. Our forms are a very exact amount each time. If there is a small overburden amount, generally our plan is to put that into a waste form where we would make a block that would be maybe a second or a reject, something that could be, there's a market for those types of things, blocks that people can get at a discounted rate because they've, maybe it took 2 or 3 castings to generate that block out of, the leftover concrete or whatnot.
Okay,
If that
thank
makes
you.
sense.
Maybe I should have asked this question earlier on, but can you explain exactly what the concrete casts are used for? Like what is?
Yes,
what is
absolutely.
exactly?
These, what we'll be casting, it's called Stone Strong. It's a licensed product. So we will be building blocks for large retaining walls. We build a lot of retaining walls in our business. I'm sure we've built some in Murray City. We actually built a very large one just down the road from us at an apartment complex that's currently under construction under Rimrock. There's a very large retaining wall around the outside of that. So it's a large concrete block used in retaining.
Are they the ones like that kind of interlocked? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
And so you just make the casts and then ship them off, or you make the casts and install? Like
We will make the cast and ship them off.
Okay.
Can I clarify on the water issue? So the only water that they would be able to use or connect to on this site is to the city's water department by installing a water line. They cannot use the well. That comes from the state.
As currently stated, but there's legal legality they could go through to change that?
Because
They would
if they got state permit, if they went with the state well permit, they
They would have
could
to resolve
access
that with the state.
So the people that they had come out was the first step of being able to access that?
No, they did that without authorization.
Right, they did it in the wrong order, but they could get a permit to access the well.
They could apply.
They could apply.
We don't know if it'll be,
I don't think, I don't think that's possible because it's been abandoned, but they would have to check with the state. Our water department has noted on their comments that they will need to connect to the city's water services.
And maybe just, obviously, I can't give legal advice to the commission, but I know enough about water law to be dangerous, and I know that after a period of abandonment, that water reverts back to the state.
Yeah, I think that has happened. I think it's been long enough, right?
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, any other questions, for the applicant? Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. We would ask that the commission follow the staff recommendation and approve the CUP. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. We are now going to open the public comment period. And so if you would like to make a public comment, you are here, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you're watching remotely, you can also make a comment by emailing planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. Just a reminder, we will not address the public comments during the public comment period, but we may address them afterwards. And also a reminder, if you could pick up a piece of paper in the back of the room and fill it out and drop it off here on the podium after you're done making the comment, that would be great.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can I ask a point of order just for a second?
yes.
The applicant stated many times they wanted to reserve the right to respond to comments. And I just wanted for clarification, they don't reserve the right, you asked for input, is that correct?
Sure, yes.
So upon seeing a need, you will ask for input?
Yes,
So, okay,
Yeah.
just,
please go ahead.
Hello. My name's Craig Cook. I'm the president of the Board of Directors of the Humane Society of Utah and its general counsel. I've been with the Humane Society for 51 years. And in fact, in 1989, I discovered the site that we are now on, which used to be a KOA campground and truck stop. And it was in serious repair, and we bought it. And through the last 34 years, we spent millions of dollars to make this one of the best facilities in the country. We've been acclaimed by national animal groups, and it is a very modern facility, and it serves the community of Murray plus the entire Salt Lake County. It has 42,000 square feet. We adopt 6,000 to 7,000 animals every year to loving homes, which otherwise would have been probably euthanized. We do over 11,000 spays and neuters for low-cost prices, which probably wouldn't have occurred. We perform over 160,000 vaccinations, which many would not have occurred. We have a foster program. We have an education program. We bring animals in from other parts of the state and help them out. We have 200 or 300 volunteers that also help us. And every day, we have hundreds of people go through our parking lot for these services, including the clinic and the adoptions. We have a lawn, there are the people walk the dogs. We have volunteers who go out there every day and walk dogs. Our staff walks dogs. People come for the clinic and they wait out on the lawn, so it's a very open area and a very safe area. Now let's compare us to Legacy Materials. They were, as far as we can see, formed in June of this year. They are an LLC, owned by an LLC, which is owned by an LLC. In other words, there's 3 levels of LLCs with no personal liability. From my experience as an attorney, this means it's very difficult to ever go after a company because of all this LLC levels. As has been noted, they have violated the city orders twice now, and basically had orders to stop and proceeded again. And I guess the kicker would be if you Google them right now, you'll see they're on the internet, and they're actually advertising they're an open business. So they're open, and they've got the address and everything else. So they're ignoring the fact that you have to have a business license and you have to have this conditional use permit. So the qualifications in order to give a conditional permit in Murray, there are a number of qualifications which also supplement the state law. Excuse me. One of these is that such use will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity, or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity. Now, that's one of the requirements under the Murray ordinance in order to grant a conditional use permit. So, what do we have here? We have a proposal to make a concrete batch plant. That's the That's the actual term, concrete batch plant. I invite you to Google that term, and you will see that normally speaking, it is a very toxic situation. Throughout the country, there have been litigations on batch plants, and it's a very serious situation. Now, the attorney has stated that they are applying for a state permit in order to get a permit that they're going to test all this. They're going to make sure everything is fine. When I talked to the air quality state department, the people who do this, they said they weren't going to do anything because it was too small of a matter, that they only did big plants, and they were not actually going to make any investigation of this site, that it was not in their jurisdiction. So I would like, clarification exactly what they're talking about, because that's exactly opposite of what I learned. Now, so.
Could you please try to
Yes.
wrap up your comments?
Pardon?
Can you please try to wrap up your comments? You've been
Well,
well over 3 minutes.
Yeah, I understand, I think, but, we're entitled to reply to this 20-minute, this is our, response, and I would respect to have a few minutes as the head of this organization next to us, a very serious problem for us. So the concrete is mixed, and they've stated this process, which I've never actually seen before. I don't know anyone who's watched it. The present site, if you go to it now, is terrible. The only flat part is where the old building used to be, right next to us. The rest of it looks like a junkyard, just mounds of cement and mounds of junk. And they're going to put their batch plant right next to our facility, right next to our fence line. And, this will also generate water waste, which is also toxic, which can go into the groundwater. It can contaminate the lawns next to us. And then the bottom line is that, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they're not going to generate any kind of a dust or toxic material that will harm our facility. And I mean, the normal rule is it will. So they're going to have to prove that it won't. And I think they have to show more than just their statements that this facility is not going to generate this toxic dust that will completely shut us down. It will eliminate our lawn. It will eliminate our parking lot. We will not be able to filter the system. Our employees will get sick. It will be a complete disaster. So before you grant this conditional use permit, I think you need to really get someone who will certify that this system that they have supposedly come up with is absolutely safe for not only us, but for the entire population within a 1 mile area, including all the apartments that are above this. And just to have them come in here and state that everything is safe is just not sufficient to meet the burden under a toxic bulk plant. So we ask you to require that before any kind of a conditional use permit is granted. Thank you.
Before the next public comment is made, I just want to remind people that we have a lot of people here. We want to hear from everybody. So please be respectful to those here and to the commission and limit your comments to 3 minutes if you can. And presenting new information to us is really what we're looking for.
And please submit your forms up here. Mr. Cook, if you could
Yeah, can you
fill
please,
out your form and submit it to us.
can you please submit your form up here at the podium? Craig? Have you already dropped it off up the front?
Oh, your form. No. Did you fill out the form?
Okay, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Arden Brett Bullock. I'm an architect. In fact, I'm the architect of the current Humane Society facility. I've been involved with Mr. Cook and the staff over there for actually many years now. What I want to address is the health issue. That is the most critical issue, particularly for the Humane Society. I think when people think about the Humane Society, they think, oh, they get cats and dogs and they find homes, or maybe they don't. Well, it's far more than that. Humane Society is really a low-grade medical facility. It has medical-grade equipment, has medical-grade air handling units on the roof. They have a surgery center, a post-op center, a surgery preparation center. They do inoculations. This is not just a simple business right next door that takes animals out for a walk during the day. There are many studies that have been done relative to the toxicity of the kind of materials that go into making concrete. Let me just list those for you. This is probably more information than you want, but the product, cement, contains calcium, silica, which is derived from sand, shale, and silica dioxide, alumina, bauxite, recycled aluminum or clay, iron, derived from iron ore, blast furnace slag, or iron oxide. Now, I've seen a lot of batch plants as an architect. They are not clean facilities. Cement is a powder. And the problem with the powder is, the particulate is incredibly fine. The Humane Society air handling units that sit on the roof that scrub the air basically to provide heating, air conditioning, and air exchange for the animals and the staff were designed specifically for the kind of particulates that come off of the interstate. Those particulates are large, okay? They are the kind of particulates that you would pick up maybe in your home, just heavier dust particles, things like that. And you probably realize from your own home and your own furnace filters, it doesn't catch everything. Well, the units that the Humane Society uses are they're the equivalent of a HEPA filter. HEPA filters over the surgical area scrub the air and take out fine particles. They do not take out the fine particles that are created by the cement dust. The Humane Society recently replaced a unit that is on the, I'm sorry, my time's up, right? Okay, bear with me for a minute. They recently replaced an air handling unit that serves the dog adoption area, which happens to be closest to where this batch plant and the casting facility will be located. That unit provides 7,200 cubic feet per minute of air. That's a lot of air. Okay, it's over a $50,000 furnace. It was just replaced in December of '21. That unit utilizes what's called a MERV, MERV8 filter. In order to get rid of the particulates that are in cement dust, you have to have a MERV 13, which is what we use in the surgical area. So the problem is if the applicant cannot mitigate the dust, and frankly, I doubt that they can. It's a wide open space, an 8-foot tall concrete fence, any kind of fence, 8 feet tall, isn't going to stop wind from blowing things around. The wind is going to bring the dust particles
Could you please wrap up your comments?
I'm sorry?
Can you please finish as soon as
Yeah,
possible?
I'm almost done.
Thank you.
So if they can't mitigate the dust problem, it's going to force the Humane Society to upgrade their equipment, which is going to run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So please keep that in mind. This operation is not a clean operation. Wet cement is clean, after it's mixed, not before. Contains dust. So with that, if you have any questions. All right, thank you very much.
I already received a form of someone who wanted to make a comment. Chris Byersney? Sorry. I knew I was going to slaughter that.
My name is Chris Berejny. You want my address? 1206 Waterside Cove, number 30. That's in Midvale, 84047. I've been volunteering there for over 11 years, and again, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of dust or not, but I do know that they're open 7 days a week, and I walk that area every Saturday, myself and other volunteers as well, all day, and the patrons as well who use that. So just kind of keep in mind just the number of people that will be walking that area every day. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name's Alex Van Diver. My address is 361 East Bear Circle. I should disclose, I am a lawyer. I am not hired by anyone, and I cannot give you advice or anyone else advice. I am up here because I am very concerned about the standard that the committee is using today for how to grant this conditional use permit. You guys have cited, or the planning staff has cited, to state code. You guys are city code. And in the city code, which is actually printed onto the conditional use permit application, it is 17.52060. And it clearly states the planning commission shall not authorize the conditional use permit unless the evidence establishes, and there's 4 points. I'm not gonna read them because I don't wanna go over my 3 minutes, but some of the highlights are that the particular location is necessary or desirable to provide a service or facility which will contribute to the general well-being of the community and the neighborhood. Well-being. The second one is, and I'm summarizing because again, I want to respect your time, is that the use will not, under any circumstance of the particular case, be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity or injurious to the property or improvements of the vicinity. That was the part of the code that the GC of the Humane Society was citing to. Okay, so that's an or. So that prong has 2 parts to it actually. So there's a lot of commentary about the detriment to the health and safety, right? Because there's concern about the dust particle, but also you have to think of the property value of how it might injure it, right? Because the Humane Society as has been told, has many activities on their site. I have gone there for many years as I can't remember when I started going. I was a little girl when I started going and volunteering. And I know that they have fairs and stuff, and I don't know that they'll be able to continue to have fairs and taco trucks and coffee trucks for people to just go hang out with their dogs and socialize with other people. That's an injury to property, okay? It's going to damage the value of property. Also, the last prong, the applicant may be required to provide such reports and studies which will provide information, and there's information about whatever you want, basically. And these are things such as including engineering reports, financial ability, market consideration, neighborhood support, okay? So I'm going to stop right there. I looked over the report that the planning staff created, and there's 2 pieces of evidence. Remember that you cannot, it says right here, shall not authorize a conditional permit use unless the evidence establishes. The only evidence on that report were the sketches of where things would be and a zoom in of that sketch. There was a mention in there that there would be a dust mitigation plan attached. It was not attached. And given the concerns of what has been said of these people of already violating, I would also amend this to include one more condition. Shall provide a dust mitigation plan that will be approved by you guys, but shall also comply with that dust mitigation plan. And if they do not, I would say it's time to get rid of that permit. If you guys are inclined to put on that, approve that permit. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Other comments?
Yeah, my name is Jack Ortez, and I own the property right across the street from the 4300 South. And I kind of appreciate those folks coming and building that batch plant there. It's a batch plant. I realize it's a dirty plant. It's an industrial zoned area. It's what it should be. since they've been there, the short time they've been there, they've cleaned the place up. They've gotten rid of all the homeless people, the drug dealers, the thieves. I think they're a positive note for this, as an addition to us. So that's all I got to say. I think it'll work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I remind everybody to turn in your forms when you make comments, please? Thank you.
Could you, Jeff, could you please turn your form in at the front of the podium here? Other people that would like to make public comment? Is there anybody else?
Hi, my name is Tim Williams, 264 North Almond Street, Salt Lake City. I'm a 30-year member of the Board of Directors of the Humane Society of Utah. And I'd just like to underscore the comments made by our architect about the fact that this is really a medical facility in many ways. We are viewed by many pet owners as a place for procedures and for animal health. And given the concerns about the air quality and dust and particulates, I don't think that most planning commissions would authorize a cement plant next to a clinic or a hospital, and I would invite you to think of it in those terms. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Did you fill out a form that you could drop off? Is there anybody else in the room that would like to make public comment?
Sorry, I just had to do it. I'm married to that guy. I'm Chris Williams. I live at 264 North Almond Street, Salt Lake City. And I just want to I have been to so many of these things at different cities for different reasons. And what I want to underscore is that, first of all, I'm going to say we have a lot of lawyers in our family. They're good at what they do. But if you're talking about the law and you're asking somebody to do something, please get proof. Don't take their word for it. It's not going to help us. It's not going to help the people that live around this facility and the animals. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The forms are in the back of the room, so if you could grab a form at the back of the room and then drop it off at the front. Okay, anybody else in the room that would like to make a public comment?
Hi, my name is Linnea Scott. I live at 2980 South, 1500 East in Salt Lake City, Utah. I don't have a lot to say, but I would say that there is a dramatic shortage in animal welfare. There's not enough people, there's not enough places. The only thing they're not short on is animals. And it's hard to get people to want to go somewhere where they might be at risk. They might be breathing not good air and loud noises. We should talk about the noises too, the vibrations. Animals are sensitive to that. There's not a shortage in concrete. You can get that from any state, you can ship that anywhere. Animals are more important, they're alive. Concrete can be constructed, put together anywhere. Animals are dying because we are short, and that should matter. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could fill out a form as well, I appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Dr. Timna Fishbein. I'm the medical director at the Humane Society. So I'll give the business address 4242 South 300 West. Most of my comments, honestly, were going to be about the dust issue. I guess there's question now about whether or not that it really is an issue. I do have concerns about the legacy materials moving forward without proper permitting. It again highlights the fact that might be a pattern. In my research, I found some disturbing reports. It's well documented what silica dust can do to the body. It's going to be similar in animals, in humans. It's well documented. OSHA has very strict rules about it. I found evidence that these dust particles travel up to half a mile in every direction. There's a lot of housing going up well within that danger zone. So I would urge you to also take into consideration all the apartment buildings and townhomes that are getting built on Main Street, just like 2 blocks away. The other issue is noise. Animals are very sensitive to noise. The other thing I would also say is that, we're an animal shelter. These animals are under a lot of stress as it is. We do everything we can to mitigate that, make it a more pleasant stay for these animals, but they're already under so much stress. Having loud noise and vibrations coming from a concrete plant could be really detrimental to animal health in our shelter setting. So I would urge you to really consider making sure that this dust mitigation plan is appropriate and actually does protect our air quality. I found a recent report that we're losing up to 8,000 people prematurely a year due to our poor air quality. Decrease in median life expectancy of 1.1 to 3.6 years. So we're losing years of our lives because of the air quality in our city. Maybe we don't need another negative contributor right in the middle of our city. So thank you very much. I'll fill out the form.
Thank you. Any other comments that anybody wants to make that's in the room?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Beller. I'm at 1111 West Garnway in Salt Lake City, 84104. I've been with the Humane Society as an employee since about 2006. Oftentimes when we walk dogs outside, we walk them by the freeway, a truck rolls by, the dogs get frantic and scared. Right now we are able to go away from the freeway, away from those trucks to try to calm those animals down. My main concern is the noise, but also the truck traffics. Those trucks that are going to come in with the cement, those trucks that are going to leave with the form, they're going to contribute to a lot of fear and scare of the animals that we care for. And that is a huge concern for me, because we won't have anywhere on our property where we can take this scared dog that's frantic, where we can still walk him outside without all those trucks and those traffic. I'll fill the form.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Madison Cushing. I live in Murray, Utah. I'd rather not dox myself, but I can show you my ID. I also work at the Humane Society of Utah, which is also located in Murray. And I just think someone needs to get up here and list some of the health issues for humans, because I know not everyone is a crazy cat lady or crazy dog lady like myself, that are associated with concrete production. And those include COPD, emphysema, lung carcinoma, pulmonary tuberculosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and possible cancer and kidney damage. I also want to mention, for those of you who aren't animal people, how many young people we have come through our facility, including children. Is this something we're willing to expose our community to? I just would want, proof that this is going to be safe before I would hope that the city that I live in and have lived in my whole life would move forward with this. And I will fill out a form.
Thank you. Additional comments? I'm seeing nobody in the room. Okay. Well, this is, I thank everybody for coming out and expressing your concerns, and we appreciate it. This is usually where I would turn to the staff and say, let's read the emails we've received, except we've received over 200 emails since 5 p.m. yesterday. So all of those emails will be entered into the official record, and as of 8:37 p.m., I'm going to close the public comment period, and so no further comments, including emails, will be entered into the record, but anything we received up till right now, we will put in the public record. The Planning Commission has not had a chance to read all these emails, obviously, and the planning staff has only read a portion of them. So as the chair, I would recommend that the Planning Commission consider postponing a decision on this item in order to receive the comments submitted via email, consider the comments made this evening, and we could postpone this till the September 21st, 2023 meeting to allow commissioners, staff, and everybody involved time to review the different conditions and what mitigation we could add if we need to for any of these concerns that are brought up. Thoughts on that, or a motion if someone would like to do that?
Before we have a motion, can I have one additional thought?
Please.
I don't know when to make this request or who to make this request to, so question of order, I guess. It would be nice to have, I personally believe it'd be nice to have a neutral third party who knows about the process to help inform me. I don't want to be in a position where I have to decide which party is more believable. Is there an option for us to obtain a neutral third party professional opinion on the process? When I say the process, not our process, the cement making process, the wet cement making process, and the air dust and particles it produces.
Well, I think we would have to check with the state and the health department.
Yeah.
Could we not do a condition
Yeah, I think so.
that we would require a third-party report to verify everything they say is going to happen? I mean, that might be a condition we could do.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a great suggestion. To the chair, I concur that we should take the time to read all the public comment. It's people took their time to do it. We owe it to them to read it. I know that the applicant has asked for time to answer some of the questions. If it pleases the chair, I do have a question for the applicant based on one of the comments that were made. If you feel it would be worth everyone's time for them to come back, I do have a question for them.
Okay, let's do that. Let's have the applicant come back up. And if you could just state your name and address again, that would be great.
Jeff Comer, 13961 South, Suite 100, Draper, Utah. And
thank you.
Ryan Balls.
Hi there.
Ryan Balls, Harriman, Utah.
Do you want to allow them to address anything, or just my question for them?
If you want to address anything, you could go ahead and do that. We still have these additional comments, and I'm hoping we can, push this so we can read all those comments. But if you want to address anything that's already said, I think that's probably fine, and then you can go ahead and ask your question after that.
I think it's off. Yeah.
There we go. I'll be very brief. So it was mentioned that there are 3 levels of LLC here. We disagree. The owners are here. They're here for questioning. Their faces are made plain. There was an indication that somehow we didn't, that the Utah Department of Environmental Quality would not certify this process. That is false. Yes, usually they don't deal with such small operations, but in this instance, we were able to contact Christine Bodell, 385-290-2690 at that department, who indeed did agree to provide this certification. So that is going to happen. There were some mentions made that the Humane Society is a medical facility. I can't speak to why they would have a medical facility in an MG zone, but that's their business. There was some talk made about people walking pets along that area, which is great because now they'll have some greenery to do their business. We hope they clean up after themselves. But the reality is there are trucks going in and out of that area all the time. This is an industrial zone. And just next door to the Humane Society, they got businesses with big trucks going in and out. So noise can't be an issue, and disturbing the pets is probably the same as it ever was. As far as the silica dust is concerned, I think some of the comments forget that my clients are people too. They have families too. They're not going to go do a business that will put their own health in jeopardy, let alone the welfare of their families. This is safe for them also, and they're going to be operating this facility right up next to it. I just wanted to mention, I appreciate the commission's due diligence in this process. I appreciate your willingness to really read the emails and really digest the information. And yes, you know, it would help to have neutral parties here to take care of this. But that's why we have conditions, because those conditions need to be met for this business to go forward. And in my experience, there are many in this instance. And here you have my clients, they don't even own the property, but they're willing as lessors to go in and meet these conditions. And so we would respectfully request that the commission consider these additional bits of information. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Yeah, so my question is regarding condition 1C. One of the public comments mentioned that perhaps it was too small, that the plant was too small to be regulated by that department, the Department of Air Quality. Can you talk about that? And it sounds like you've already made some calls. Do you mind sharing that?
Yes, we've made some calls. They've agreed to come out to the site and meet with us and look at our equipment. I don't work for the Department of Air Quality, and so I can't speak to what they would deem large enough or small enough. However, in my work experience, this would probably fall into something that is small enough that it's not on their radar, because it wouldn't be something large enough to contribute to or negatively impact the air quality, not something that they would be necessarily concerned about.
So if they said it was exempt because of the size and no permit was needed, how would you propose, the spirit of 1C is for the state to somehow certify that the air quality meets their standards? How would you propose that standard's met?
You know, that's a good question, maybe a question that I would flip back onto you folks as the Planning Commission. You set the requirement in front of us, which we're willing to do our best to comply with. And if it is something that the state were to say, you know, hey, this is too small, this is, you know, outside of our purview, I would look for recommendations from you. Maybe, you know, I'm not in the mood to give myself an assignment here by volunteering a lot of information. However, you know, these types of, these pieces of equipment that we use, they need to be maintained and kept in proper working order to mitigate any dust that would come from them. We certainly would be happy to comply with that and make sure that our equipment is maintained and in top working order. That only benefits us as well, so. Does that answer your question?
Can you also just take a minute and talk some about the noise and vibration that you'd expect to have on your site with equipment and vehicles?
Sure. Yeah, we'll be, it is a relatively small operation. We'll have maybe 2 to 3 heavy trucks on site, most of which will be gone throughout the day for delivery. These trucks are really not any louder than you know, like a pickup truck or anything like that. I mean, they're certainly regulated vehicles. We'll have a forklift or 2 on site. The forklift that we have right now is a propane operated forklift. Its emissions are incredibly low. It's a very quiet machine. Placing concrete is relatively quiet. If it were happening outside right now, nobody would be able to hear it. So we're not.
How about your batch machines that actually, you know, make the materials?
Sure. Other than the generator, which is a very quiet generator, we would be able to hold a conversation next to it. We won't have any equipment on site that OSHA would require any hearing protection. of. So I don't foresee this being a noisy environment. Certainly the noisiest thing going on next to us is 7 lanes of traffic. It's deafening, honestly, to be there next to the freeway.
Thank
So
you.
You asked him to answer my question, and I appreciate you asking us a question, but I'm far from an air quality expert. So I think the spirit of 1C is to ensure that that this meets a state level of adequacy. I have confidence in the state's standards. However, if those standards don't apply, I do think that it would be incumbent somehow, and I'm not sure on who, to establish a standard that would need to be, either or if 1C, if a permit wasn't available by the state, a substitution to ensure that similar level of quality is met. And again, I'm not an expert in that, but I do think that is reasonable.
I've been involved with the Department of Air Quality in past businesses. I won't speak to what their exact standard is, but I am familiar with it, having complied with it in the past. I don't see it as something that would be onerous to us, and it should certainly be a standard that we would be able to find out. It is a measurable standard that they have, and like I say, it's not something that we're afraid of standing up to.
So I'll just add some clarification here. It's not going to win me any brownie points, but I have to say it anyway. So 1C states obtain any required state permits.
Right. No, I
If
wrote
they
that.
come in and say that that they do not do it, means it's not required.
Right.
We could, and it does say, copy of permits to be provided to the planning division. That could be as easy as just a letter from the air quality folk that say, we won't review it.
And that's why I wanted to ask the question, because I understand the state may say, hey, we just don't regulate this. And so I appreciate your comment that in good faith, you're willing to ensure the bar is at the same level and it is measurable. I think that's something that, I appreciate you offering that.
You're probably sick of hearing from me, but when I say that the equipment needs to be maintained in a high working order, it's no different than somebody's vehicle, that has to pass emissions tests and those kinds of things. We are interested in our equipment being maintained at that level. So.
Understand? Thank you.
One thing that we could do is you could amend that condition to also include Salt Lake County Air Quality Bureau. Now, I don't know if they regulate that particular thing, but they may. But that would be something we could check into, and if that's the case, then.
Alternatively, it might be incumbent upon us to provide an environmental engineer report, of the assessment, the state standard, and whether that standard will be met, and that might be a consideration for the commission.
I go back to my original question. I don't know, I feel like it wasn't answered, because my knowledge of how that condition should be written may be influenced by some information from a neutral third party. Is there an opportunity to have access to a neutral third party who knows more about the submit process and its effects on air quality?
Well, I think what this gentleman is indicating about the state certified.
So you're saying the certification process would be that neutral third party determining if it's appropriate or
I
not?
believe that would qualify as a third party, yes.
Yeah, the state's a pretty good authority. I don't know if there's other questions for the applicant.
I don't have any. Does anybody else have questions? Anything else while you're up here you'd like to mention?
No, thank you for your time. There was a misspoken standard. The standard is not, we don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there'll be no emissions. That's actually the criminal law standard. We just have to demonstrate to the commission's satisfaction that we intend to maintain and comply with these conditions that are provided. So we would submit that we've done so today, and we would ask that the conditional use permit be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm still of the opinion that we should, due to not hearing all these, reading all these emails, that we should, I don't remember the correct terminology, continue this at a future date, the September 21st meeting.
Do we not have a motion on the floor already to that effect?
We do not. But if someone would like
Mr.
to.
Chair, due to the significant amount of public comment within the past day and the lack of time for adequate review of the comments, I move that the Planning Commission continue this item to September 21st, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second from Commissioner Patterson and a second from Vice Chair Milkovich. Let's do a roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bakavich,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
and Chair Pearson.
Yes. Okay, so, well, I guess we'll continue this in our September 21st meeting. We really appreciate the applicant and all the people being here. I know you took some time out of your personal time to come tell us your opinion, and all those people that submitted emails, we will take time to read those.
Will you just verify that the public comment portion is closed, so the
Yes.
continuation will not include public comment?
That's correct, yes, this is correct. Like I said earlier, the public comment period is closed, and everything that we received up until that time that I said will be entered into the public record, but the public comment period is closed. So next meeting, we will continue the conversation as a commission on what we can do, so.
Sorry, can I add one more
Yes,
thing
please
too?
do.
Just for the public's sake, we'll have an updated staff report, and with additional information, published about a week before, typically the Friday before the Planning Commission. So if you're curious, you can go on our website, and we publish our packets that have all the relevant information. So that should be updated with anything else that may have come up as we go through all those comments and things as well.
Zach, can I, a statement question, or Mr. Chair?
Please go.
Statement question. I noticed that a few attendees were videotaping, and just so that you know, this is going to be posted publicly, and you can go back and watch the whole event online at your leisure.
Yes. Yes, on Facebook and on the YouTube. So, do we have any other, we have no other agenda items. Do we have any announcements or information that you
Our
like?
next meeting was going to be complete training, open meeting act training, but now we'll add this agenda item on also.
Yeah,
So-
so you have two new agenda items. So,
Two items.
Okay.
yeah. Other than that, I don't think we have anything significant to
Okay.
add.
If we have nothing else, then I could entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:55 PM.
Motion to adjourn from Commissioner Lowry. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Yeah, everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.